India's Defence Minister Nirmala Sitharaman is undertaking a sortie in supersonic fighter plane Sukhoi 30 MKI at the Jodhpur Air Force Station. She is the first woman Defence Minister to fly the fighter aircraft on Jodhpur Air Base. She had seen the Uttarlai Air Base sitting in the MiG-20 Bison a few months ago. But she will fly in a Sukhoi 30 for the first time. Significantly, the squadron of Sukhoi 30 was deployed at Jodhpur Air Base in 2011. Former Defence Minister George Fernandes, former President Pratibha Patil, Abdul Kalam and Union Minister of State for Home Affairs of India, Kiren Rijiju, have also flown in the Sukhoi aircraft. And we are joined on the phone line by our correspondent Raghavendra Rao. Thank you very much for joining us, Raghavendra. Good morning to you. So this is a kind of a brave action that Nirmala Sitharaman is making, and also she's the first woman to actually jump on a Sukhoi 30.
Well, absolutely, Daniele, and this is a very symbolic gesture, and this kind of a move goes a long way in sending a message down the forces, because when the leader is leading from the front, it sends down a morale booster kind of thing as far as the forces are concerned. And the fact that Nirmala Sitharaman is taking a sortie in a Sukhoi jet just goes on to show that she's appearing to be a minister who is very hands-on, who wants to understand and learn how things work, how things operate, what are challenges which our soldiers face on a day-to-day basis. She has been visiting a lot of forward posts also ever since she took charge as the defense minister. Now, the fact that Indian Air Force is in the process of inducting fighter pilots, women fighter pilots, and we already have a few women who are going to join as fighter pilots in the Air Force very soon. It also is a signal and a message in that direction. And the fact that she is choosing to do this sends a huge message as far as the Indian Air Force and the defense establishment is concerned.
And also, Raghavendra, beside being a symbolic act, as you well said, this is really a kind of warm invitation to women to take up the role of pilot and join the Indian Air Force. Regarding the Indian Air Force, what is the status of the Indian fleet right now?
Well, absolutely. As I said, Indian Air Force is already in the process of inducting women as fighter pilots. We are going to have 6 women fighter pilots flying many of these fighter jets, Sukhois also at some stage. And that has taken a while to materialize. These women were first selected, then they underwent training at various facilities. The 3 of these fighter pilots are already flying. 3 more are set to fly in days and weeks to come. And it has opened up an entire new avenue as far as women are concerned. Fighter pilots was a profession where women were not present for many, many years. And now finally Indian Air Force is allowing women to fly its fighter planes. And the defense minister, India is the first full-fledged defense minister who's a female. Her taking a sortie in a Sukhoi, that's great messaging, basically. It also conveys about the fact that how the establishment is viewing women as future leaders and future fighter pilots in its ranks, right. And how the entire there is a paradigm shift as far as our defense machinery goes.
And thank you very much, Raghavendra. I request you to kindly stay with us. We are also joined by Colonel A.K. Sharma, who's a defense expert and strategist. Hello, and thank you very much for joining us. One question to you, Nirmala Sitharaman, one of the first defense ministers, the first defense minister as a woman to fly on a Sukhoi 30. Is this an invitation to the women of India to join the Air Force and take up the role of fighter pilots?
I think by virtue of Mrs. Sitharaman being the defense minister, that itself is a very strong message to encourage women to come forward and join the defense services. As far as her taking a maiden flight in the Sukhois, and prior to that spending 24 hours on board INS Vikramaditya, India's aircraft carrier. Well, it has its own intrinsic value in terms of imparting a fair amount of knowledge and experience to the defense minister, who is definitely new to this particular field. But I would personally think that as a defense minister, she also needs to go beyond the optics and look at defense as a serious business and look at the voids that exist and fill them up on an urgent basis.
And Colonel, regarding the Indian Air Force, under a technical point of view, where are we at? How technologically advanced it is, what is needed and what is missing in order to bring it up to speed, if there is any need to bring it up to speed?
I think this is a constantly evolving capacity and capability, so there will always be a need to move on and equip ourselves better. Looking at only our adversary, which are in the neighborhood, we are fairly well placed. But like specific to your question, there's always be a need to get better, to acquire more capability. There are voids. They are well known. They are there in the public domain. We need to fill up those voids. And in order to be future ready and in order to be a regional power as we aspire to be, definitely Indian Navy and the Indian Air Force need more teeth and need to acquire more capability. Be it in terms of the fighter bomber capability, be it in terms of surveillance, be it in terms of pure strategic mobility.
And Colonel, we are having this conversation while the Israeli Prime Minister is visiting India. He's on a 6-day visit to India. Do you think a partnership when it comes to especially the radar technology with Israel could benefit the Indian Air Force and the Navy for that matter?
Certainly. We need technology. We keep talking of Make in India, but we definitely need help from countries that are technologically ahead of us. Israel is one of them. And as we do enjoy good relations with them and as the relationship is definitely moving forward, I think we could do well by acquiring certain identified technologies from Israel. Though, of course, as a country, we're following the policy of not putting all eggs in one basket. So we are looking at Europe, we are looking at America, we are looking at wherever we can get the technology from. Partnering Israel is definitely a welcome step.
And also, thank you very much, sir. I request you to kindly stay with us. We are also joined by a former Air Vice Marshal, Mr. Kapil Kak. Thank you very much for joining us. Good morning to you. So, the Indian Defence Minister, Nirmala Sitharaman, taking a flight on Sukhoi 30, that's absolutely not an ordinary thing to do. Is this an invitation for all the women of India to take up the role of jet fighter pilots, sir?
It has certain symbolism because there is a gender factor. Firstly, she is the second woman defense minister, the first full-time defense minister in that sense. And she's also taken this flight at a time when the Air Force has, in the last 2 years or more, inducted very combat pilots. And the day will not be far that a young 20-year-old woman will fly to Sukhoi 30 MKI. So in that sense, Nirmala Sitharaman has kind of inaugurated this new era where half of India's population, the women, will find their true power and capabilities in terms of being equal participants with their male colleagues in frontier warfare of the future. My only point of dissonance is that Nirmala Sitharaman, of course, needs to go well beyond symbolism. She has been defense minister for some time, and we know there are large gaps. I mean, taking the Air Force as an example, since she has flown the Sukhoi 30 MKI just a while ago, I mean, this is something she has to grapple with, hands-on, because we are not getting the right answers from the government. And when I say we, I belong to the Strategic and Security, Policy Commentariat. We don't get any answers. How are we going to address the serious shortfall in combat power? And I don't have to tell you, Daniel, and your viewers, that today's war fighting is led by air power. I mean, operations by the Army and the Navy will be dead on arrival until and unless you have a certain element of dominance in the air. Whether it is the surgical strikes in Uri or it was the sustenance of our deployment in Doklam, air power was very, very much in picture in both situations. So if such a conflict gets out of hand, do we have enough capability? That is the question the viewers will have to ask the government. My belief is we need to seriously address the shortfalls in combat air power, in force multipliers, and in higher decision making, which has been on the table for so long.
Right, very well stated. So a very welcome symbolism whenever a Ministry of Defense, especially for women in India, takes a flight with a Sukhoi 30. But also, we need, as Kapil Kak, former Air Vice Marshal, says, to go beyond symbolism and fill the gaps in the Air Force, which are very much needed in the modern theatre of warfare. Thank you very much to all of you, gentlemen. A.K. Sharma, Colonel, and Defense expert Kapil Kak, former Air Vice Marshal, and our correspondent Raghavendra Rao. Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate your time.